Namaste and welcome to another episode of Itihasdhir. We are joined today by Colonel Ajay Raina, and we are thrilled to have him here to discuss his book Kashmir Narratives. Now, Kashmir Narratives is a monumental work that unravels the layered history of Jammu and Kashmir. So, sir, welcome and thank you so much for joining us here. So, can you share with us the key moment or the realization that motivated you to embark on this journey for writing?
Firstly, good evening, everybody. Thanks for calling me over. What happens, Aditi, is that when you're a student of a subject, like I'm a student of military history,
Ji.
I've been so for last, maybe 35, 40 years. Though my parents put me in medical stream and they wanted me to become doctor, but I always loved history. Uh, so when you're a student of a subject, and then at certain stage in life, you kind of look back and try to analyze what you learned, what you believe. So things were not adding up because I lived through a phase where we had the typical Nehruvian history being taught to us officially. Then we also came to pass through or we're still passing through or transiting through a phase where alternate history is coming out from very, very reliable sources. So when these things don't add up, so as a student, you get kind of, you get bothered a bit that probably you don't know the actual thing. So that's how it struck me. And then I said, okay, let's dive into it. So more you dive into it, more you discover. So more you discover, there's no end. So, but I had to put end to something because, like I keep telling everywhere, that wars and battles like Ukraine or Israel probably happens once in 20, 30 years. Battle of narrative carries on, and battle of narrative is much more dangerous than normal battle because in normal warfare, of course, there are collateral damages, but in a conventional warfare, armies fight each other. They're trained to fight. They've been, I mean, their existence is basically to fight. War of narrative targets people like you and me. Me because I'm now no longer in army, so I'm like just like you. So it subverts our minds. It fills our mind with certain agenda, which then harms our country, our civilization, our culture. So it's not only in Kashmir or it's not only in history. This narrative building is everywhere. In fact, you would have heard there's a guy who said, "Please drink alkaline water." No, this became a fad. Everybody is having alkaline water, and then the guy is in prison now because whatever you may drink or eat, finally it goes to your stomach where acids have to get produced. That thing has to turn acidic, then only the food will get digested. So from here to here, even if you have two glasses of alkaline water, doesn't matter because finally, unless until the whole thing becomes acidic, so it's everywhere, everywhere. But narratives in history cause more damage because when you want to mislead a young, ignorant mind, so it's very easy to refer to some landmark in the history which never happened, create a story about around it, and make the guy believe this is how it was. So आप शुरू से ही खतरे में हो, दुनिया आपके खिलाफ है, उठो, जंग लड़ो, जिहाद करो. So it is dangerous. All kind water कहीं पिएंगे कहीं नहीं पिएंगे वैसे भी people in India जल्दी they take resolution do it for 2 days and they forget about it कि कौन के खीरे काटे कौन नींबू डाले. But history is a story वाला narrative है ना, it gets to your mind. So I thought I'll do my bit, try to clarify things. That's how it happened.
So
Okay, so
Kashmir's history is often misunderstood, it is misrepresented, especially to people who've never been to Kashmir. We've heard a lot of things, and they can range from one end of the spectrum to the complete other end of the spectrum. And we never understand the truth from the outside, really. So, when you began your research, was there a particular question? We know that the broader theme of the Kashmir narratives, but was there a particular question that you wanted to explore, and how did that shape the structure of your book as a whole?
There were many jailbreak of 1931 was one trigger uh, because when this 2019 happened and Article 370 was diluted and 35A was abrogated. There's a time when new system, the new Governor Central LG, they put an end to a gastry holiday, which which state had been having since 47, practically 1948, 49. So it was called Martyrs Day. And even till 2019, in the year of 2019, also in July, all top administration of civil administration, the politicians, because that time Governor rule was on, so but politicians were there not in power, but they were there. And then top cops of Kashmir. You could search the net and you find their photographs offering their kind of tributes to people who got martyred uh, in July 31. But the other part of the story was that those guys had tried to break into a prison where a guy who was facing sedition charges, he was a British plant who had been sent from Peshawar, an orderly of a British army officer. And okay, trigger. I mean, there are so many triggers. The British did the whole thing in 47 was also a big trigger, which we don't talk. Even my own fellow citizen in Jammu and Kashmir, most of them don't even know what Britishers did. So that's why I said it's not adding up. So that British officer sent his orderly to Kashmir. He went to a very big mosque hosted by Sheikh Abdullah, started preaching against Maharaja because Maharaja was a Dogra, non-Kashmiri. So that venomous speeches were intercepted or noticed by CID department. So he was put on trial. So these guys then tried to the street park, which we see now in farmers' protest. We saw a part of it in Shaheen Bagh. Similar kind of thing they started doing in Kashmir. So the orders were given, okay, don't get this guy to court because court is not designed to take this kind of crowd. You get the judge to the jail, central jail Srinagar, and carry out the trial, which even today we have video conferences happening for very sensitive cases where prisoners are not physically moved. So when they were doing it, the jail premises was surrounded, stone pelting started, the burnt of the guards' barrack. And when it reached a limit, then the authorities there, the DC, the judge, the superintendent of police, they realized that if they don't react, these guys will come in and lynch them. So they opened fire. Guards were told to open fire. 10 odd guys got killed. These guys pulled out cords from the barrack which was being burned, set on fire by these guys, the police barracks, guard barracks. On that, they put those 10 bodies and took them to city. Now they're passing through the city. The news is spreading like wildfire. And in a locality called Maharajganj, which was a Kashmiri Pandit locality. Kashmiri Pandits were not part of the dispute. It was between Dogra Maharaja and so-called pressed Awam of Kashmir. So Kashmiri Pandits are Kashmiris. They are not Dogras. But then they're looking for softer targets. So they looted their shops, got their women on the road, raped them in the streets. And that's when army reached and they opened fire to salvage the situation. So 10 more guys got killed. So 10 were rapists and first 10 were arsonists. So collectively they were taken to graveyard and buried. And that graveyard is called in Kashmiri language means that graveyard of martyrs. And when Sheikh Abdullah came in and Maharaja was exiled, could see Nehru Saab's love for Sheikh Abdullah. So this was formally converted into guest holiday. So look at this. I mean, you have rapists lying in the graves there, and people are going offering floral tributes. British conspiracy, how it started. That was again actually major trigger point was even that how on 18th of August, 3 days after independence, and in fact 1 day after the boundary Radcliffe Award was actually announced. India and Pakistan were partitioned, but which village along Punjab border will go to which part of which country was not known till 17th of August. So 17th, you come to know that Gurdaspur is with India and Sialkot is with Pakistan, that kind, and Amritsar is with India. And next day, the army chief of Pakistan Army, General Masarvi, signs a letter, operational order, telling everybody, okay, on 22nd of October 47, we will attack Kashmir. And before that, Jammu. So a nation which just been born, whose half of army was still in this part of the continent because troops were deployed both sides, they were being exchanged. It took 1 year for the troops to get exchanged. And they decided to attack. Belief here or teaching in India is that Qabilis got together and they said, okay, let's go and save our Muslims, who in any case were not under any danger. They came and raped Muslims in Kashmir. In fact, what did they do? They burnt off Muzaffarabad, killed all Hindus and Sikhs, raped their females, took them to Peshawar, sold them in mandis, and then they got it for females, Muslim ladies who were from National Conference. Right, there were two blocks in Kashmir: Muslim Conference, National Conference. Muslim Conference was Muslim League's proxy. So those guys were, when they saw those so tribesmen led by Pakistan army officers, when they came in, so they joined with them, joined hands, welcomed them, and then the other guys, other Kashmiri Muslims who were not Muslim conference, they were also victimized. So this thing doesn't add up. That a tribal army comes from outside to save Kashmiri Muslims from Dogra Maharaja, and they come and loot and rape Kashmiri Muslim ladies after, of course, after having finished with Hindus and Sikhs. So that also didn't add up. So as you go by and by, you used to keep uh, going through the layers and start seeing things. And one more thing, Aditya and Aditi, happened there was that nobody wrote from nobody wrote Indian perspective about what happened in 47, 48. So the most of the books which came out from Westerners, generally published by Oxford Press, both in London and in Pakistan. And unfortunately, if you are a researcher and you go for a research project in any of the universities in India today and want to search 47, 48, or any for that matter, anything, they say, okay, you only cite those writers, those authors who have actually built all these narratives. You and me, our books will never not be cited. If any student tries to cite, he will never get his doctorate or MPhil, whatever. So even in army, we read all those books. Then there were a few first-hand experiences written by army officers. Like General Sen wrote a book called Surrender Was a Threat. 25 years after the thing was over. So he was into kind of the sunset years. Your memory doesn't serve well. Then this Prime Minister of J&K that time, Meher Chand Mahajan, who rose to be Chief Justice of Supreme Court of India, he wrote his memoirs about 30 years later. Again, there's a mix-up of dates. So what happens is, even if as a scholar, even if you know that these books are authentic, when you produce them as evidence in support of your thesis, the dates don't match. So there's a contradiction. And then VP Menon wrote one book, but he wrote about political part of it, how state instrument accession was signed and all. Whereas J&K, if you look, it has a political problem, which was accession related. It is a military problem, which started by Pakistan, even continues today. Then there's a religious problem, which we refuse to identify. We don't call J&K problem as fundamental Islamist driven thing. So, so these are things which bother you as a student of military history. And you write about it. And I picked up 50 such topics, 50 make believe things which are believed by even my own ancestors or my forefathers. 90% of the state, and of course, India and world generally believes everything which I have tried to contradict. So I picked up those 50 narratives. And good that you guys are reading. I'm happy. And Kashmir people are reading. Uh, let's see what difference does it make.
तो सर जैसे you're a veteran and आपका जो आप like a majority of your life was spent in the armed forces. So sir, did that time shape or influence the way that you approached the topic of narratives of especially of the area of Jammu and Kashmir? Because there was a time that you had mentioned ki how these fake narratives are peddled against the army by the locals, specifically when it comes to the safety of women. So, Usme, if you could please elaborate.
Yeah. There's so many allegations which come flying on Indian army. And if it is serious allegation like the two ladies getting killed in Shopian, dying in Shopian in a river, or a rape case in uh, Handwara involving a Muslim officer. Uh, when such rape allegations and these things come, then as a norm is in Kashmir is that three inquiries, independent inquiries are ordered. One is done by army, which is immediately, I mean, starts next day, and one is done by police, and one is done by magistrate. So if you research this particular stream of uh, work in Kashmir, you realize that 99% of the allegations which come out on papers and on TV debates, they are proved to be wrong within few days. But once they're proved wrong, no news space is given on main page where the actual news, earlier news has come. And even if it comes, nobody bothers because people like sensation. As humans, we like violence. We may say anything. Being violent is 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 a self-defense mechanism inbuilt in all of us. At certain point of time, whatever may be our nature, at times we have to be violent to save yourself. This is instinct. This is survival instinct. There's nothing wrong with that. But a fallout of that is that in a newspaper, when you open a newspaper, between somebody getting a Nobel Prize for writing a poem and somebody getting shot in a mob, but as you read that mob wala pehle, it attracts you. So these two poor ladies who got Nanad Bhabi, sister-in-law. एक तो English is a very funny language, so she was her sister-in-law, she was her sister-in-law, whichever way. So the allegation came that CRPF had raped them, and there was liters of semen found inside their body. Which even today, you go to Kashmir, go and meet any well-meaning friend. There's a chance that he or she will tell you the same story. So one, everything is based on a postmortem report. The report said there was a foreign male thing inside female's private parts, and later on discovered that part of the postmortem team had a lady doctor, married, who had used her own fluids, inserted those fluids into bodies of the ladies, and then taken samples. Uh, so when the news broke out, the doctor got suspended, the team got terminated, a lot of things happened. But the news which came in the paper was just 2 inches by 2 inches or 1 inch by 1 inch. Nobody bothered. And who's going to read all that? Because when inside a mosque you are told by Maulvi, वो हो गया, इस फौज ने हमारी औरतों को ये कर दिया. So when suddenly people 14 years ago people started believing that Earth was flat. Before that it was always round. So I mean this is power narrative. आप आर्ग्यू करके देखो किसी के साथ, प्रैक्टिसिंग मुस्लिम के साथ, वो कहेगा चपटी है, और डॉक्टर भी होगा, फिर वो कहेगा साइंस के हिसाब से गोल है, बट वी नो चपटी है, साइंस को क्या पता है. दिस इज व्हाट नैरेटिव डज, एंड दिस इज वेयर द प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट्स.
Great.
So, sir, based on your extensive research, what do you think are the key steps that are today needed to ensure peace, development, and to some extent cultural revival in Jammu and Kashmir? I mean, we've passed that phase of the post Article 370 abrogation. We've seen that some cinemas have opened up in Jammu and Kashmir after a long hiatus. We've seen some sort of normalization, if not a lot. The Home Minister going there, Lal Chowk, I mean, celebrating Diwali as a whole. So, some aspects we do see today. But what do you think are the key steps that are needed to ensure peace that remains there throughout?
See, firstly, Jammu and Kashmir is not a homogeneous state. Kashmir has a different culture, different language, different tradition, and different problem. Jammu has all those things different. So what applies in Kashmir doesn't really work in Jammu. What works in Jammu doesn't. So, and Jammu in any case is not pro-Pakistan, despite we have having a population say about 40% Muslims live in Jammu region, but they belong to a different school of thought. They are Gujars basically, Pahadis, and they are nationalists more or less. So you never saw a stone being pelted in Jammu region, whatever might be the reason. Whereas in Kashmir, very intelligent people, well-read people, gullible people. Between an outsider telling them something sensible and a local guy telling them nonsense, they believe the latter because the DNA is such that they have to go for the. What can be done is, see, lot has been done. I was in Srinagar last week. Not only cinemas have opened up, liquor shops have opened up. Life is very, very normal there. Uh, the problem is that nobody is willing to show mirror to the people whom the mirror needs to be shown. So people of your age in Kashmir, well-meaning people, who were either not born or were very young when Kashmiri Pandits were thrown out from Delhi, they don't even know that their forefathers actually went and pelted those houses with stone, dragged the ladies outside, forced them to migrate. They don't know that because no chore will tell his offspring कि मैंने चोरी की थी. कोई बताता नहीं है. ब्रिटिशर्स ने बनाया, पूरी दुनिया लूट के अपनी म्यूजियम भर ली है. They don't say that wealth of Europe belongs to so-called third world countries who were richer that time than Europe itself. So same is a thing there. So parents are doing their sacred duty of shielding their kids against the truth because they themselves are party to that violence. कैसे बोलेंगे? Now, if today's generation doesn't understand that this is how their neighbors, the people, original people from Kashmir, they were thrown out, victimized. They firstly they'll have no sympathy with Kashmiri Pandits. So that's why when Kashmiri Pandits are told to go back and shift there, they don't because they don't find anybody feeling for them. जो the senior lot, my age and above, who actually did it, they are so guilt ridden that they get into a mold, or shell rather. They don't welcome them. Drama करके छोड़ देते हैं. So whose job is it to tell people in the street of Kashmir that this is what happened, this is where you guys went wrong, and this is what you must not do again. That responsibility willy-nilly falls on the shoulders of government. Now our government, irrespective of whichever party is in power since 1990, has never called the problem in Kashmir a Islamic fundamentalist problem. So you've been calling it a political problem. A political problem has acceptability across the world. In any case, the world is after India. They want us to fall. Nobody wants a rising India, from White House to whatever state he lives, the PM. So it's all the more important that you take this onus on you and you go and tell people this is what happened. In my books and my talks, I don't refer to somebody did. I always say Muslims did it, Hindus did this, Sikhs did this, because unless until we know those stories naked, we don't face those stories with kind of brutality which they're supposed to be faced, you will never learn the lessons. Because one should know the truth. And then you look back and say, okay, my grandfather in 47 killed so many Hindus or so many Muslim, my grandfather killed so many Muslims. So end of day, what has happened? We all are here, we still exist. Nobody's vanished. No religion has fallen. There's no danger anywhere. So you tend to get right lessons. ये जो drama है ना, politicizing the religion and then creating a narrative and forcing you to kill your own neighbor, it doesn't work. But उसको बताओगे नहीं if you don't even tell. And today's generation, I'm sorry to say, you two youngsters sitting in front of me, you guys also don't speak too much. You guys are too busy with screen time. तो तुम लोगों के पास टाइम नहीं है. वो बताएंगे नहीं. सरकार बताएगी नहीं. One second. तो कौन बताएगा? Dog is tearing or something. So कौन बताएगा? फिर हम जैसे बताएंगे. अब हम जैसे बताते हैं तो जो people read, they read. If they don't read, they don't read. Just too bad. We were in Kashmir a week back for Kashmir Lit Fest, the first ever Lit Fest held in Kashmir. It had no agenda. See, event is over, everything is over. The coverage will also come out. YouTube videos will be loaded. You will see it was only talk about literature. Somebody wrote a book. We invited him, spoke to him or her, and then we gave stage to Kashmiri locals, youngsters, 2 sessions to tell us what do they want, what are dreams, what are their aspirations. Despite that, the local narrative in Kashmir, it got generated moment they came to know there's a Kashmir Lit Fest coming up. Twitter got overrun for a while with tweets saying that this is being done by RSS. Then they said, no, RSS doesn't work because none of us is RSS. So this is being done by occupational army because I am a Fauji and one of the speakers was a Fauji. So out of 24 speakers, there was one Fauji. So usko aage laga ke, and the Fauji has done so much. He was a corps commander in Kashmir. The turnaround which you refer to was under his watch. He's the one who got Tiranga and Lal Chowk Tower. And people love him because despite this all this propaganda which started by part of ruling party, the guy who was ex-mayor of Kashmir, he started this propaganda or narrative. Kind of response from youth we got. The way 500 people came, attended our function, and they were dying to meet General Saab because he's touched them. He's he's moved them around from being stone pelters to advocates, lawyers, international athletes. So they know he's the guy who did this during his tenure. So this is a power narrative. But nobody from government came, nobody from university came, nobody with any kind of connection with government came, despite people checking at 8 in the night, कल सुबह कितने बजे आना है, and next day सुबह उनके phone बंद थे. They didn't turn up. The seats, the VIP seats were vacant because an unofficial message went, stay away. So this is what narrative does. We were lucky we had so much of crowd we don't care. And we had so many VIPs in our panels that we didn't really need anybody. So it's not that narratives are happening or working 40 years back. They work as we speak. अभी भी कोई आज फिर ट्वीट कर रहा होगा किसी के अगेंस्ट कश्मीर में. So जम्मू को आप जम्मू इज ओके, जम्मू छोड़ दो, जम्मू में प्रॉब्लम कुछ और है. We need to disconnect, we need to get out of this Jammu and Kashmir bag, and it has to be Jammu state and Kashmir state, or UT and UT. We are fighting for that. And a very prominent Kashmiri leader, ex-finance minister of J&K state, finally has said that this is the most unnatural alliance. And government of India and every other government has tried to keep two regions together and failed to achieve unison. You see the way seats were, I mean, election results came out. Jammu voted for one option thing, Kashmir voted for something else. ठीक है ना, अपने अपने देश में रहो, खुश रहो यार. इंडिया के अंदर ही हो ना, अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर ही है. तो यूटी ऑफ कश्मीर, यूटी ऑफ जम्मू, यूटी ऑफ लद्दाख, so that our leaders are accountable to us. What happens is Jammu leaders don't work. When we ask them, say वो क्या करें, गवर्नमेंट तो कश्मीर की है, CM is from Kashmir. कश्मीरियों को वो काम नहीं करते. जब when Kashmiris ask them, जैसे क्या करें यार, जम्मू वाले हमसे पैसे मांग रहे, हमारा वो कहाँ चला गया. So they play around. They make money, they create fortunes. You want to be seen? Okay, she wants to be seen. Okay. There's no narrative against you, don't worry. So this is how it happens. Now she thinks that there's some narrative. I just meal time है इसका, इसलिए.
So I have one question. So I remember essentially when we were talking earlier, this had come up. So I mean, you had once said that India was a little far behind on its narrative game, in the sense that we started the use of social media later. When I wanted to understand from you how we can control social media, you said that rather than controlling it, we should use it in the same way that they try to put up take out anti-India narratives on social media. We should similarly try to counter those narratives, and we should have the wing. Could you elaborate more on that? And another part of the question was that you've written Kashmir Narratives. We've seen a lot of, as you said, alternate history coming up now. We've seen Dr. Vikram Sampath just launched his book, Tipu Sultan, as well. So alternate history is coming up, but do you think that it is coming up in a fast enough fashion? And are people, especially media houses that publish these books, are they accepting of these alternate narratives?
Okay. See, banning a thing doesn't work. So when it comes to narratives, social media, campaigns, you must launch campaigns. If you just search Valley or Blue Star, you'll find thousands of videos anti-India, originating from Pakistan, Canada, and everywhere else, including even Punjab, even from so-called the middle path guys, because they have to survive. You will not find a single video other than maybe one podcast by General Pul Barar, who was a boss. He did with ANI. So if you are a young Punjabi youngster in a village and you watch that video, after 1,000 videos which talk only one thing, saying that Vindawale was saint and India was villain, and 1,001st video comes which says, "Oh, no, no, this is what." So who are you going to believe that one last video which comes after 1,000 videos? So we're not bit too far behind. We are pretty far behind. We are behind by miles. So the answer is that now that we've woken up, we should jump into the stream and swim with the crocodile. You can't fish a crocodile out. You can only fish choti choti machliyan. If you want to take control of the territory which belongs to crocodile today in the river, you need to jump in and then show that guy his place and then take over. So this is what social media, my approach is. Alternate history, yeah, there are media houses which are. I also run a small publication house, Saber and Quill, and we publish all kinds of books. As long as we are convinced that you've done your work well. In fact, we are. No, Dr. Sampath doesn't have to pay people, but if you go to a publication house, he'll say, अदिति यार 1 लाख रुपए दे दो, हम छाप देंगे, ये वो सब ड्रामा. We don't take a single penny from the authors as long as work is authentic. So there are people, Garuda publication, who's published Dikshit sir's books. They're the people they're coming out. But the impact or reach of these books, especially the new generation, which loves YouTube videos more than books, then audibles more than videos, then dreams with the sleep more than anything else. The problem kya hai ki these things have to be vetted by government and taken into the syllabus. Like I keep saying, if you want to do IAS, you read my book or books, you'll fail. You'll get zero because I've written the correct thing. That doesn't suit those people who conduct UPSC exams, who've been framing those questions, who've been teaching in JNU. It will clash. So if you're IAS aspirant for 10, 15 years, you're slogging from class 5th on, you're dreaming, okay, मैंने IAS करनी है. So you start, history remains a very favorite subject. हर कोई करता है और history comes in your way. Even if you're not opted for a history as subject, तो interview में कहीं ना कहीं आ ही जाएगी. So people read. If you're reading about the Syria conflict happening as we speak, so naturally, if you're IAS aspirant, you will not only see what's happening in Syria, then you go back to history. क्या हुआ था 50 साल पहले, उसका साथ कैसे फादर कैसे आया था, वो सब. तो बेचारे वो 15 साल तो वो हिस्ट्री पढ़ते हैं जो कि नेहरूवियन हिस्ट्री है. तो उनके तन मन धन के अंदर वो हिस्ट्री घुस जाती है. ठीक है, उसके बाद आईएएस अफसर बनते हैं. आईएएस अफसर बनने के बाद यू थिंक दे हैव इनफ टाइम टू री क्या कहते हैं उसको, रीबूट देमसेल्व्स. दे कांट. सो उनका भी थॉट प्रोसेस वही वोकिज्म, वही लिबरलिज्म, वही लिब्राडो जिसको हम बोलते हैं, वो चलना शुरू हो जाता है और वही देश का बेड़ा गर्क होता है. सो अनलेस until you pick up these books, I'll not say every book, have it vetted, have it debated in a good forum, send it to all universities, tell them, give comments on this piece of work, then introduce this book as your part of your syllabus in your history classes, in your IS, in your IPS, in wherever competitive exams or subjective exams are being written. Then the change will come. Otherwise, you take V Savarkar book of same author, घर लेके जाओगे, your dad will say क्या क्या पढ़ रहा तू V Savarkar, because he's read that history. I have the privilege, like I'm saying, being a history student, I have read both the histories. I've seen that. I used to love Nehru ji. Oh, Shastri ji never existed for us. Shastri ji was a छोटा सा बंदा, कोई आया चला गया. Nehru ji was Everest. Indira Gandhi was deeper than ocean. वो तो पप्पू ने आगे भी अपना काम खराब कर दिया. तो you guys are, you are lucky. आप लोग alternate history देख रहे हो. हमने दोनों देखी हैं. हम तो कंफ्यूज रह गए 10 साल, 10 years we didn't know what to do. कि वो जो पढ़ के बड़े हुए, एग्जाम दिए, फौज में गए, वो ठीक था. और फौज में भी हिस्ट्री पढ़ी, वही हिस्ट्री. It continues. Army also teaches you how you have to do exam, you have to pass exam, do courses. And suddenly you realize कि वो सब गलत था यार. So whom do you blame? So the confusion, when a society or civilization gets confused, then it heads toward destruction. So my appeal through your platform to government of India is just pick up 2, 3 good books. Forget us, yeah. There are good people who have done very good research. Have it debated, discussed, vetted, checked, and then say, this is a book which will be on Tipu Sultan, the only book. From my side, you burn off all of the other books. I don't care, because when Dr. Sampath or even when I do my research, we quote both the versions. We say, okay, this is what this author says, this is what this author says, but this is what evidence says. So, जो narrative laden history hai, it can remain in the environment. Doesn't matter as long as you have the right book. That book refers to both the versions and then tells you this is the nichod based on this is the fact. This was in that document or in the coin. Otherwise, तो यार we are just, कहते हैं ना पंजाबी में कहावत है, हवा में जफ्फियां डालो. हवा में जफ्फियां डालोगे तो you get nothing. You only flexing your muscles. होगा कुछ नहीं. This is how I look at alternate history and how I look at social media.
So, जैसे कश्मीर का history and culture has been so rich, the entire area, but because of political interferences, time and again in the historical part of it, we don't know anything about it. Now, how do the upcoming historians and researchers, what all steps can they take to make sure कि भाई हम जो अब produce कर रहे हैं, provided मतलब उनका दिमाग भी सही हो and they want to produce the right history, which Which sources should they be referring to?
See, it's not that people didn't write the correct thing earlier. It's not that it just started 10 years back. No, people are writing. People are writing even in 1950s, 1960s. Their books were either not allowed to be published, or if they were published, like I said, they were not taken up as part of curriculum anywhere. So those they must be lying in some library somewhere. Particularly when you come to Jammu and Kashmir, the archival records of Jammu and Kashmir are 450 years old. These are the oldest, among the oldest in Asia. Till now, they were lying in a basement. And when you go to archives department and request them, okay, I'm a scholar, I am doing research on General Robert Singh, I need to see documents. They said, उसमें ना वो नीचे बेसमेंट में ना उसमें सांप और बिच्छू घुस गए हैं and they were all थैलों में बांध करके रखी हुई थी. Now, for the first time, those documents are now placed in a place called Kala Kendra in Jammu, and part of it has been digitized. So those are the first-hand documents. But then problem with the first-hand documents is, Aditi, that like I was a company commander in RR, Rashtriya Rifles in Kashmir.
Yeah.
If you asked me the 20, 25 square kilometers of jungle, which was where I was, which was my area of responsibility, probably I knew every tree and every stream. But does that mean that I also have the macro look of what was happening in Jammu and Kashmir? So first-hand accounts भी कई बार narrow होते हैं. They look at a very micro issue. So वो आपको देता नहीं. So it has to be a combination of a lot of things. Luckily, in case of 4748, Jammu and Kashmir, starting history 4740, previous history, we also have a document called Gulabnama, which was biography of Maharaja Gulab Singh. So Raj Tringni is, of course, very, very old book, which is one of the oldest in our Indian culture. Then you have Gulabnama. So there's a we have fairly ठीक है थोड़ी psychophancy है महाराजा के बारे में लिख रहे हो तो writer will always use flowery language, but facts, dates, campaigns, results, those are well documented. 47, 48 onwards, luckily we still have people who have seen those days. My father was 10 years old. My grandfather, who passed away recently, not recently, I mean, not many years back, he had seen much before that. So we have oral tradition very much alive. So when you read out something and you ask your grandfather, कि ये है तो इसे बंद करो इसको, I tell you the actual story. But again, I tell you that those first-hand accounts are again not really verifiable. So you have to refer to say 20 sources, and you'll be surprised. People have written so much, especially Britishers. The independent, there's a guy called Lawrence who wrote about Kashmir in 1870s. 1870s. See, Britishers never wanted to leave India. So they had taken Gilgit on lease for 90 years in 1930, 60 years in 1935. So they were planning to stay on in Gilgit and Jammu and Kashmir and India till 1995. वो तो वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 हो गया और वो कंगाल हो के चले गए. सो उस टाइम के जो हिस्टोरियंस हैं उनके दे हैव रिटन करेक्ट versions. Only when this game started of division of partition of the subcontinent, then they started writing history in a way where they would keep British role behind the curtains so that tomorrow you don't turn around and say कि हमारा जो बर्बादी हुई है nuclear flashpoint in Kashmir exists because of Britishers. वो वाला part उन्होंने twist कर दिया. But say about 1940 उसके पहले के अगर आपको पढ़ना है there are so many books written by Britishers and Europeans and most of them Europeans, trekkers, explorers, historians, what do you call them? Guys who make maps, cartographers. So there's a rich source which you can safely say it is not narrative driven, because narratively game started only when they decided now there's going to be Pakistan, there's going to be India. और 1930 से पहले तो पाकिस्तान का नाम ही नहीं था. तो वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स बिल्कुल सही है. फिर उसके बाद जो हुआ उसको तो हमारे पूर्वजों ने खुद अपनी आंखों से देखा, न्यूज़पेपर्स में दिख जाता है. यू अभी वाली जो 47 के बाद की हिस्ट्री तो अमृत बाजार पत्रिका से लेके कहीं भी यू विल फाइंड गुड कॉलम्स रिटन एज एडिटोरियल्स रिटन. सो व्हाट यू नीड इज बेसिकली हार्ड वर्क. आपको थोड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. नेट पे सब कुछ मिल जाता है, जो नहीं मिलता वो आर्काइवल रिकॉर्ड्स में मिल जाता है. तो आप लोग तो मेहनत करो, टाइम नहीं है बिकॉज यू हैव योर ओन लाइफ टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू. तो हम लोगों ने बोला ओके वी लिव्ड आवर लाइव्स, सो लेट्स गिव इट बैक टू आवर सोसाइटी तो हमने वो चीजें निचोड़ के किताबों में डाल के रख दी आपके सामने. पढ़ना नहीं पढ़ना is one's choice, but whosoever reads it probably will have a better understanding of the situation. Not only Jammu and Kashmir, everywhere. Why Amritsar came to us? People say Gurdaspur because Nehru ji went to Mountbatten and he said कि इस लाइन को यहाँ से मार दो. It's all, I don't want to use that word for Jilingo, but it's all falsity. It was decided 3 years before even Mountbatten came that these areas will come to India and these areas will go to Pakistan. Because Sikhs were scared that the Golden Temple should not be threatened. So had they given hold Gurdaspur to Pakistan, population was 50-50. It could have gone either way. So north of Golden Temple, Amritsar ke north mein, they would have been Pakistan. South of Amritsar, the Rajasthan area, since canals were running into Bikaner Canal was already there. The source of canal was being given to Pakistan, Husainiwala. So Raja of Bikaner said, okay, if the place from where my ancestors built that canal to get us water into Bikaner, if that head work, that source of water goes to Pakistan, so they'll shut it down. So we all will die. So I might as well go and join Pakistan for the sake of my population. Otherwise, we'll die without water. So there was the situation would have been the Darbar Sahib Amritsar, Upar Pakistan, Samne Pakistan, Niche Pakistan. So only approach available to India was from the east. So Sikhs had this sensitivity. They had already approached Britishers and told them, we want protection from all four sides. Darbar Sahib should remain with Sikhs in India. So it was decided much before Mountbatten landed up in India. But if you read Congress's history, this Mountbatten said, ये गुरदासपुर कश्मीर में मैं पैदा हुआ था तो he was not even born in Kashmir. He was born in Lucknow. He was not a बड़ी कश्मीरी. तो जैसे गुरदासपुर दे दो तो जम्मू के साथ लिंक हो जाएगा. जम्मू से लिंक हो जाएगा. जम्मू और कश्मीर में सड़क नहीं थी. जम्मू और पंजाब के बीच में ब्रिज नहीं था यार. लखनपुर का ब्रिज नहीं था रावी रिवर के ऊपर. जम्मू वाज टोटली कट ऑफ. So कुछ नहीं. If you read right history and अगर थोड़ा सा गैप जैसे अदिति ने पूछा कि ऑथेंटिसिटी अगर थोड़ा सा गैप आता भी है ना तो यू कैन ऐड अप ये और ये हुआ होगा rather than creating a fairy tale celebrating somebody who doesn't deserve to be celebrated, calling chacha mama mahatma, I know what, we are very fond of giving names to people. So फिर वो you are much better off even if there's a bit of gap left and can add up and reduce something.
So I think itihas, which is history, it means it does happen. Reading your book, it kind of confirms what George Satanaya said about history, that it is a pack of lies about events that never happened by people who weren't there. I think in the Indian context and especially in the Kashmiri context, your book makes that very clear. So we're very thankful for your work, and it has been such an honor to delve into your insights and your expertise. Your book not only informs but also encourages us readers, especially my generation, to engage with history in a more meaningful way. And the best part about having a conversation with you is, I mean, it has always been the amount of insights that I was particularly happy when you told us that your book is doing the best in Kashmir sales wise. So very happy about that.
Thanks a ton. And my challenge through your this platform is anybody reads it and finds anything which he or she is not convinced, please reach out to you and you guys can then tell me. It'll be a pleasure to clarify or learn new things. Thanks a ton, both of
Thank
you.
you for
God bless
joining
you.
us, sir.
Thank
And we hope that Kashmir Narrative it continues to reach a wider audience and it keeps on making more impactful conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
God
you so much,
bless.
sir.
Thank you.